So we have used this data table in our template. Now let's go to admin products.ts. We should make a few changes here to feed our new data table. Now this data table internally implements sorting and pagination, so we don't have to write any code for it. However, in order to get those functionalities, we need to encapsulate our data inside a data table resource object. So first, I'm going to define a field here, call it table resource. This is of type data table resource. And this is a generic class. We pass the generic argument in angle brackets. So this is a table of product objects. Now we need to import this type on the top. So import data table resource from angular-4-data-table. And again, this may change in the future. So if your code doesn't work, please be patient and do your own research to fix these breaking changes. They're really out of my control. Now we have this table resource object here in the constructor, where we get all these products from our product service. We want to pass them to this table resource. We want to initialize this table resource with all the products that we retrieve. So I'm going to add a code block here. So nothing new so far. We get the products and we simply initialize these two fields. Next, we're going to initialize our table resource. So this.table resource, we set it to a new data table resource object and give it this products object. Now this object has two methods. One is query that we use to get all the records for the current page based on the current parameters. So we pass a parameter object here and we set the offset to 0 to indicate we want to display records in page 1. Right? Now this returns a promise. So when that is complete, we get all the items that we should display in page 1. And with that, we can initialize the items field that we bound our template to. So this, the items, we set it to these items. And of course, we need to declare this field here, items. It's a product array. Now you may think we have so many different fields like products, filtered products, and items. They are all product array. That's true, but we're going to refactor this code in a second. So step by step. So here we call the query method and pass the default parameter to get items or products in page 1. Now, after that, we call the count method. This, the table resource dot count. Now, for some reason, my IntelliSense is not working here. It was actually working before I started recording this video. So this count method returns the total number of records in our table. In this case, that's the total number of products that we retrieved from the server. So when this promise is complete, we have the count, and we use this to initialize this item count. And this is the field that we referenced in our template here, item count. Okay. So let's declare this field here. Item count is a number. Now, these few lines are highly related and they're all about initializing our data table. So I want to refactor this code and move these lines into a private method in this class. So let's add private initialize table. I want this method to get a products object. These are the products we want to pass to this data table for initializing it. Then I'm going to cut all this code and put it here. And finally here, we're going to call this the initialize table, and we give it this products object that we retrieve from Firebase. So far, so good. Now back in our template, here we handled the reload event. As I told you, this event is raised every time one of the table parameters changes. When we change the page, when we change the sort order, or the page size. So let's go ahead and implement this method, reload items. So back here, reload items. This method takes our table parameters, params. All we have to do here is simply call this query method and give it the new parameters. So earlier we used this default parameter, which was offset of 0. Now we want to pass it this parameter object that we get here. So I'm simply going to copy this line, table resource.query, paste it here. And instead of passing this default parameter, I'm going to pass the parameter that we get as part of handling that reload event. Now there is something tricky here. When we load our page, this reload items method is called immediately. At this point, our table resource field is not initialized yet. Because this is initialized after we get the data from Firebase. And there is going to be a bit of delay here. So to make this code a bit more reliable, I want to check for that. So if this .table resource is falsy, I just want to quit. Okay. Now let's test the application up to this point. So let's go to manage products page. We get another error. Cannot read property length of undefined. This is because when I defined this items field, I forgot to initialize it. So at some point, this data table plugin is accessing items.length, and because it's initially undefined, that's why we get that error. So let's set this to an empty array. Now back here, one more time, manage products. We get another error, cannot read property price of undefined. I realized I made a mistake earlier in the last lecture. So here in our template, in order to get a reference to the current row, here we should not use the word product, we should use item. I don't know exactly how this component is implemented, but it doesn't like you use other names here. So you should use item. And similarly, when rendering the edit link, we should use item. And here we should use item.$key. Okay. Now back in the browser. One more time. Okay. No errors. Here's our table. Sorting works. Beautiful. We've got pagination here. 2 pages. Perfect.